Hi, and welcome to my video. Thank you for taking the time to watch. This video is about Microsoft Azure. It is the third in a video series. I have links to the description of the other two videos that I made with under the same subject, and they're using AWS and Google Cloud Platform. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to make a virtual machine. Now, virtual machine is different than a cloud virtual machine, right? The security of a virtual machine is already good, but the security is, tripled or maybe even more if you're in a cloud virtual machine, because with the cloud, half of the security is put on the service provider. So in this case, Microsoft. Microsoft is responsible for half of that security. So it's even more leveraged in being secure. So there's a type 1 and a type 2 hypervisor. And that will launch, those are two different ways to launch your virtual machines. In the cloud, there is no hypervisor. The cloud acts like a hypervisor. So if you don't know how to make a cloud virtual machine, then today you're going to learn. I'm going to go through the steps for setting up a virtual machine in Azure. And I'm also going to show an example of complete end-to-end visibility between the production machine and the virtual machine in the cloud. And I'm going to do this through a demo. And just to help you out, when I'm demoing on the computer, I'm going to be playing music. So you can see me moving around and navigating stuff and making changes, but I won't be talking. I'll just play some background music. So, like I said previously, I've had videos doing the same exercise of making a virtual machine in AWS, and I've also had an exercise of making a virtual machine in Google Cloud Platform. And I'll put those links again in the video, in the description, the video description below. And so far, by using Azure, I have kind of come to become more familiar with it. And I think that Azure is very user-friendly. And, it has a good GUI. So as I go along this video, I'll be showing you the GUI, the graphical user interface. Azure calls it the portal. So this is brought to you by Virtually Testing. Virtually Testing is a 501c3 nonprofit company. They focus on education through the videos. They focus on charity, right? Giving back to the community. And they focus on innovation, pushing the space and inspiring through thoughts. So now I want to talk about myself. My name is Jeff. I am an intern at Virtually Testing. And today I'm just going to talk to you about Microsoft Azure. So again, I have those two other videos with AWS and Google Cloud Platform, so check them out. And I just want to do this one more time for the Azure platform. This is my info, right? You can follow me at those social media links, and that's some background info about me. So to start off, I just want to kind of take a holistic picture on the cloud services space and what is actually being out there and how what we're going to do today fits in with it all. So these videos that I've done about the other cloud providers, we're talking about AWS and Google Cloud Platform, also known as GCP. And I just want to kind of compare the three in this video. Like kind of compare and contrast. As you can see, AWS was released first, and so their platform is very solid. They kind of invented the space and invented how people get the services, and it's a very efficient way of doing it. There's a lot of options, and it gives people a lot of control over their resources. GCP is, I think, the fastest of the three, like the fastest in terms of how easy it is to set up a VM in the cloud. GCP is very smooth, and I think it's a very nice interface and just a good provider. And I think GCP is probably the most user-friendly. Yeah. So in this video, I'm just going to be going over Azure. So as I go along, I will maybe give my opinion here and there, and also highlight some of the features that are unique to Azure. So the setup for this demo is like, what knowledge base do you need to, like, what skill level are we talking about here? And the basic skill that you need is you need to know how to set up a VM. I mean, you don't have to, but if you're familiar with Oracle Virtual Machine, VirtualBox, you have a good grasp of what we're going to do. So doing it in the cloud is a little bit different. There is not a hypervisor. It's actually setting the settings in the dashboard of the cloud. But just knowing about a virtual machine is good experience, because it's taking that understanding and it's showing you how to do it with the in this case the portal, the Microsoft Azure portal. So yeah, I'm just going to basically show you the difference of setting it up in the production machine and setting it up in Azure. So I just want to say the software that we're going to be using today is Ubuntu Server 18.04 LTS, and knowing how to navigate in a web browser will also help. So this is in my opinion, this is the same across all the cloud platforms. And so far in all three cloud platforms, this is like a fundamental part of decision making, right? In AWS, GCP, and Azure, you always select how much you want to pay for your machine. And this payment method is based on the resources and how powerful your machine has. So how much resources the machine accesses. So the CPU and the memory. And Azure does it when you create the virtual machine. You select the version. And the version that we're going to use is called B1S. It is the cheapest version of Azure. So what's going on is these are all preset configurations of how many resources go into the machine. And you can see that there's quite a few. I mean, of course, we're going to be using the cheapest one, and it's just got one CPU, one RAM, 1 gig of RAM, 1 gig of CPU, 1 gig of RAM for computing power. But what I really want you to focus on here is the right-hand column. So the column on the right shows you how much it costs. And that is for all three cloud services, like the basis of what you want to know. You always want to know how much the setup you are using. So again, we're using B1S for Microsoft Azure, and as you can see, it's $7.59 a month. Right. So here's like a little bit more information about the B1S. The 1 CPU, 1 gig of RAM, and that shows you how much it costs per hour to operate. So it's just useful. So in the agenda, I mentioned that I'm going to explain how to set up a virtual machine for you. So in the demo part, I guess you would kind of ask yourself, like, why would you set up a virtual machine? You know? Why wouldn't you just buy a computer from the internet and then hook that computer up to your network? Why would you go out of your way and host a machine on the cloud and then hook that up to and access it through your network that way? Because you're paying for it monthly. So I think the biggest advantage is if this machine that you're making is going to get a lot of traffic to it, and like traffic, I mean outside traffic, not traffic within your network, but like other people from different networks connecting to it, it's beneficial to have a virtual machine out on the cloud because you're utilizing the internet that Microsoft has built, right? If this machine is on your network, that means for people to access the machine, they're going to have to come in through your internet service provider, and then connect up to the machine that's within your network. Now, if it's on the cloud, people will connect directly to Microsoft's internet. And Microsoft's internet is most likely better quality than your home network. And this comes into play if you have something like, I don't know, for example, a website on your machine, right? You don't want a bunch of people connecting to it through your home internet when you could have it on the cloud and people can connect to it directly through Microsoft's network. So that's one reason why you would do it. And yeah, it's just just gives you a hybrid network that branches off into another internet connection. So the reason why you would do this is to migrate your infrastructure into the cloud. And today we're going to be using the compute part of the cloud. So that is categorized under an infrastructure as a service. So these are the three services: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. These icons from left to right are application, development tools, operating system, then servers, then networking, then the physical data center. So what this diagram is showing is it's highlighting for software as a service the applications. And what that means is that the user of a software as a service has control of the applications, but they don't have control of everything else, right? The operating system and the development environment, that is controlled by Microsoft. When you move on to a platform as a service, the user has control of the development and they have control of the operating system, but they don't have control over the servers. They don't have control over the network. Microsoft has control over that. They're responsible for that security and setup. Now we're using the virtual machine, like I said, and we're using the compute. So we have control of the infrastructure. We have control over the networking that goes on within the virtual machine. We have control of the patching that's going on within the virtual machine. So that's just showing we're using infrastructure as a service. And that's what it looks like, I guess. That's like what a migration of your resources that you have at your on-premises being moved to the cloud. That's an example of what you would be doing, right? That's an example of how you would access it. It's an example of what you could get rid of and how you could possibly save resources for your organization. So I want to say that, putting compute power into the cloud, that will potentially save a company money. They don't have to pay for that infrastructure to be on their on-premises, and they can rent equipment. They can just basically rent the equipment, and it doesn't have to be upgraded by them and maintained by them. Everything that the company needs to be able to store, use on a computer, is available through the cloud. The only requirement to have internet access is that some cloud consumption the only requirement is to have internet access. So, just to kind of further clarify what we're doing with the virtual machine, some cloud resources are accessed through applications, right? They're accessed through ways like content. They're accessed through ways like communication, and they're accessed through ways like sharing, like Google Docs, or like just basically Google Docs. Another way cloud resources are consumed is through the platform. Now, an example of the platform being consumed for cloud is creating a database in the cloud and then accessing that database. And that would be accessing the cloud platform. And then the third way to access cloud resources is through infrastructure. And you would access things like compute, storage, or networking. And today, we will be using this compute. And that's the branch of the cloud resources that we'll be using, is the compute part. Like, all the other stuff is good, and there are different ways, but just for this virtual machine, that's the example that we're going to be using. And to show you that, we'll be going from a device, like a computer or a laptop, through the internet, and then taking control of the virtual machine as infrastructure on the cloud. And that control and taking connection, right, is what I mean by end-to-end visibility. So let's kind of get into the demo, right? I think it's time to sort of get our hands dirty. And so you can follow along if you want. Just have a Azure portal spun up and you can do this. So to start out with, go to the home page of Azure and we're going to set up a virtual machine. So there's two places where you can set up a virtual machine. One is on the Azure services where it says virtual machine. And then the other is in this little bar up in the left-hand corner. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like three bars like stacked on top of each other. If you click on that, it'll bring up a menu. And you can select virtual machines from that menu. So I want to, point out that this GUI is how Microsoft displays their services. And I just want to say that I noticed that, Microsoft has a lot of applications like Word and Excel. And I think that they've taken that experience of working with users and they've tried to apply it to the Azure service, right? Because you see everything has these like little icons and stuff. It definitely reminds me of like Microsoft Word having like a toolbar where you can select the tools from the toolbar. And yeah, it just makes it very simple and it gives you some intuition on how to do this. So that's what Microsoft brings to the table. So here's what you do. You hover over virtual machines, be it in the menu or in the services part, and it'll bring up this like little sub menu. And you want to click on the create button. And when you click on that, a form is going to pop up. And in this form, you fill out the information, like the name of the machine, the username, what kind of operating system you want to use on it. And also, like I was talking about in the beginning, this is the place where you select what sort of presetting you want. And as you can see, I'm going to use the B1S presetting because it's $7.59 a month. And, if you need more, you can always select a different one. This is the place where you select the different resources. So you keep filling it out, right? You make your username, and then when you're done, you click on Review and Create, and it will bring you to this next screen, and it'll pop up saying that the validation is passed, and that you'll see that green check mark next to it. And when you want to go on the next step, you click Create down in the bottom left. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over the demo and I'm going to set up this process in my Microsoft Azure portal. So after you've gone through the creation process and you've put in your user information and you've gotten the confirmation and you click create, what happens is a screen's going to pop up if you picked the SSH key option to download the SSH keys. And the key pair is how you get your machine to log in for you. So this save box is going to pop up where you can choose where you want to save your key to. And then after you choose where you want it to save to, you click save. And then what I want you to do is click on the go to resource page. And we're going to use this page in the next step. So just click on it and then kind of forget it. And then you need to go to a terminal, right? Because you're going to SSH into the machine that we've created on the portal. And to SSH, we're going to use the SSH command in Linux. And then you navigate to the downloaded key. You change the permissions on the key. And then that command to change the permission is chmod 400 and then the name of your key .pem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this second step of just dealing with the keys, right? So we've already set it up, and now we're just dealing with the keys and getting the keys ready. And so I'm going to do that right now in the demo. So in the previous step, I had you click on the go to resources page. We need to go here to get the public IP address, and we're going to put the public IP address into the SSH command. In your terminal, that's how you're going to log into the machine. So this is what my terminal looks like. The first part is the command to log in. So SSH -I, my key is Azure machine, key.pem, and then your name, and then the IP address in that page that you copy. Then you're going to type in yes, and then once in the terminal on the VM, you have control of your machine basically. So this is me just getting root. So you go from here, you type sudo bash, and get root. And so from here you can run services, install packages, and once you have this is the end-to-end visibility in the cloud. So this is what you do after you set up your keys. Then you're ready to SSH in. So you just basically need to copy that IP address. So now I'm going to do that and hop over into the demo. Now, when you're not in the terminal looking at your VM, you can still check on the status through the dashboard. So there's a couple places where you can see your VMs listed. This place is just like in the front page, right? The front page of the portal, the home page of the portal. There's a recent resources section, and since we just set up a VM, it's going to pop up right here, and you can see your machine running. You can see it labeled, and you'll see the machine group, and you'll see the group that it's in, the resource group. So the resource group is similar to Google Cloud Platform, where GCP calls it projects, and what it does is it gives an organizational structure. Because, like, let's say you have more resources, like let's say you spin up a database, and let's say you spin up a virtual hard drive. It groups them all together in this group, and you get to name your group, and you do that logically based on what you're going to have in that group. So you can separate these groups out to like certain users will have certain different groups. So, like if you're in a finance sector and you're using Microsoft Azure to hold your spreadsheets and access your accounting database and stuff like that, like you might want to have a group that is just nothing but the finance department and has all the finance resources in there. And it just makes it so that you can organize it. And like I said, there can be multiple resource groups. And yeah, that's what shows up on the front page. The second way of checking on your VM is, again, through that little menu in the top left-hand corner. So you go to those three bars, and then you go down to virtual machine, and this menu is going to pop up on the side. And then you go to view, and you click on view. And then the view is going to show your machine running and the location, and it's going to give you stats. It'll show what's going on with the machine. Yeah, so now I'm going to hop in the demo, and let's take a look at like how to look at VMs. That's it. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you watching this video. I've really enjoyed the process of researching and working with Microsoft Azure, and I really enjoyed making this video for you. If you want to contact me, you can email me at the address on the screen, jjung@virtuallytesting.com. Other than that, I'm going to call this video a wrap, and I hope you have a good day.